Welcome to the Ref Show. We've got the FA Cup final to talk about. You might think not a lot else besides, but goodness me, I think we could do the entire show on what happened at Wembley and the hugely entertaining final between Arsenal and Chelsea. Delighted to be welcomed by the guy who blogged the game for You Are the Ref with some very informed comments. That's Glenn Turner, and Mark Lawrenson, of course, was all eyes on it as well. Well, first of all, before we get into the controversial incident and people saying, video refs would have sorted that out. Not so sure. Lauro, what a great game.
Yeah, proper game of football, wasn't it? I think it helped that obviously Arsenal scored so early, because then, you know, it made Chelsea come out a little bit more. And I think always early goals in finals completely change the complexion. Because if no one scores for 20 minutes, then there's the fear factor comes in. But no, it was just a really, really good game of football.
Yeah, it was as good a final as I can remember.
For a long time.
Really.
Yeah, for a long time. Yeah.
And of course, match officials have to contribute to that,
Absolutely, yeah. And talking of a great final, that's probably the best I've seen Anthony Taylor referee all season as well. So he kept his best for the final as well. Fabulous display, I thought. Fabulous.
He's had some up and down moments during the season.
He certainly has, yeah. But he had a big up for me on Saturday. Okay, there's the incident that no doubt we'll spend some time talking about in a little while. But I thought it was tremendous.
Yeah, and of course he had that big call to make as early as the 4th minute, which is a referee's nightmare, really. You want a few minutes to get a feel of the game and everything.
Yeah. Just like the players, we all like to kind of bed in and get a few nice early throw-ins and easy corners and easy goal kicks. But 4 minutes in, he's got that to deal with. But didn't he deal with that in just a textbook manner? Yeah. How calmly and assuredly he went across and consulted with his assistant Gary Beswick, and they got the right decision in the end. And the old mantra was when Keith Hackett was in charge and Philip Dunn was in charge at the PGMO, we don't care how you get there, so long as you get there in the end. And they got there in the end.
Yeah, well they did in terms of the offside. Obviously the handball, which we could all see after multiple replays, is another issue altogether. Just taking the handball before we talk about Gary Beswick and the raised flag there, which Anthony Taylor correctly overruled. People saying, if we had video referees, we could have sorted out that there was a handball, like a handball block there by Alexis Sanchez before going on and scoring. How long would it have taken to get there for the correct decision?
Well, listen, they might not. The thing about that is they might not even got there, have they? Sometimes you know the try or no try for rugby league or rugby union, they just don't know. But that can only help, though, can't it? That would be rare, wouldn't it? Not to be able to actually get a definitive decision if there is.
I think what it does though is it, like Mark says, it highlights that VAR is not going to be the be all and end all that's going to cure all problems within football, because even today there are still former top referees saying that wasn't a handball, whereas other former top referees, current referees, are saying yes it was.
And it would depend on who the video assistant referee is, and one, as you say,
it's still going to come down to that video assistant referee's opinion.
It's one person. And if you think maybe the cup final might have got 7-8 million viewers, and you might have had 7 or 8 million different opinions, but that one man will be responsible.
But also struck me, watching it live on TV, following the goal, there was a little bit, that's interesting, but not a commitment from commentators on was it handball or not, and you had to get all the way to half time before people were saying, well, we've looked at this over and over again and we think it was handball.
You're right, but you said earlier on that I blogged the game, and I try to be fair to the match officials when I'm blogging by making an early call. And I made my call straight away and said that that's not a handball for me. And then we blogged about the offside decision. But then was quite comfortable to go back and say, look, I've now seen this about 47 times and it appears it may well have been a handball. But be fair to the lads, they got one shot at it.
Yeah, and also I was saying to Alan before that apparently Gary Cahill was saying to them walking off, saying to Anthony Taylor, saying, it was handball, and Anthony Taylor had said, no, it hit his knee. Yes. I thought it hit his knee. Which, if he thought it hit his knee, he thought it hit his knee.
Yeah, and he could have been closer.
But the other thing is, he could have said to Gary Cahill, clear off, it's got nothing to do with you. He went, no, I think it hit his knee.
He made his call, he stuck to it.
Absolutely. Normal.
But the thing that most people will remember from Anthony Taylor's performance and uphold is the sending off on a second yellow card of Victor Moses for diving. Pure and simple.
Should get a bonus. Should get a bonus.
Next year's final as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you're not allowed, as we know.
You can only do one.
Do you only do one?
You know, the global audience tuning in, millions of youngsters.
Yeah.
Wow, what a big statement.
Have we not been crying out for that for years and years in football? And congratulations, Anthony Taylor.
And I think the good thing about it, that'll go over to next season, but everybody will remember it. If you couldn't be any better without, could you? Showpiece game, the last showpiece game in the country, in England, obviously, and that decision, great.
As a
bravery, though.
Did you see what Conte said?
No.
He said, it wasn't so much that he dived, he just thought he was tired. Right, okay.
No.
Okay.
No.
He's cheating.
Yeah.
Great, it's great when he's...
And successfully punished by a referee who couldn't have been closer, and he had the angle as well to see. Yeah. But it still takes a bit of bottle, doesn't it?
It's one thing seeing it, it's one thing recognising it, it's another one doing it in a showpiece event like that.
Do you ask yourself, did I really see that? Is that what you do?
Yes.
Did I really see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Just interesting, the thought.
But 99.9% of the time you go with your gut instinct.
Yeah,
yes, I wouldn't be asking myself, did I see it, if I hadn't seen it.
No.
So you go with it.
No.
If I thought it was, I'm giving it.
Yeah.
Another thing, just to correct, quite a few fellow journalists, and I can sympathise with
you a journalist,
uncertainty. Yeah, believe it or not, believe it or not, that's the biggest surprise of the show. Yeah, it is a claim, a proud claim, by the way, proud claim. Writing, I've seen this written nationally that next season, because the FA are bringing in this retrospective action for diving and 2-match bans, people say next season he'd get a ban for that. Well, he wouldn't actually, because the panel will only sit for, quotes, successful deception.
Yes.
Which this wasn't.
Successful deception.
That's
Who
what
thinks
they're
of
calling
these things? Crikey.
So the guy who doesn't get detected at the time. But you made a point when we were chatting pre-show about, okay, you know, if somebody gets away with it and wins a penalty, it doesn't, and he gets a 2-match ban, doesn't help the team who was playing him at the time. Whereas this did.
Yeah. That's the great thing about it. That's why it's just such a good story.
Yeah.
You know, it helped Arsenal, but they deserved it anyway.
Yeah, they did deserve it.
Arsene Wenger, 7th FA Cup win, a record. And I've got to say, I was just delighted for him after the sticky stage.
Yeah, he's had some stick, and I think he'll get a new contract. Yeah. So I've got a man inside there at Arsenal, and I think he'll just get his 2 years. I would have thought. Yeah.
To have been treated the way he's been treated by some sections of the Arsenal following this season it's out of order, really. You know, 20 consecutive years in the Champions League. What do you want? Goodness gracious. There's only one team can ever win the league each season.
Well, a trophy. Just want another trophy.
There's another trophy,
Yeah, success, isn't it? But more than that is the football that he's consistently played.
Yes.
And also the players that he's turned into. Good players who he's turned into world-class players when you think about it. There's a long list. Long list.
Most of whom, many of us had never heard of until they turned up at Arsenal. And he made them superstars.
Including him.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. They have got a good fact for you about him. When he managed in Japan, he actually took over Gary Lineker's apartment.
Did he?
Yeah. I thought he'd like that. No?
Yeah, that's a good incidental.
The only reason I know, because I remember we were doing something somewhere with Gary, and Wenger was there, and he said, I kept getting some of your faxes. He said they were very interesting. So I don't know what that was about.
Yeah, I think you do, but we're not going to. We won't go anywhere.
Won't go there.
No, we have got a talking point which Glenn wants to raise about the assistant referee at Wembley, because one of them, because it was a huge game it's a huge game for everybody, fourth official of the two. Gary Bessick was the one in question in terms of that early decision about the Sanchez goal, and we're going to come to that in part 2 because I haven't really got time now. Also in part 2, the German referee who's in charge of the Champions League final coming up next weekend, and what that could mean. And in fact, one of our panel, I think, will be betting heavily on what happens in that game.
No, I won't, but my mate will.
Your mate will?
His name's not Joey. His first name's not Joey.
This is an important distinction, isn't it? Absolutely. You won't, but your mate will. And we'll also look at the League 2 playoff final, the Scottish FA Cup final as well. Wonderful job done by your mate Brendan Rodgers up there, eh? Join us for part 2.
delighted to have you on board.